Next on the news. Tending to a rooftop garden at Mary House in Manhattan, where the food grown helps feed those in need, including asylum seekers and migrants. Reaction from Catholic activists after President Joe Biden announced a sweeping new policy at the border that will ban some migrants who cross the border illegally from seeking asylum. Putting the brakes on congestion pricing, why the controversial plan to charge drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street is now on hold indefinitely. Plus, paying tribute to the veterans of D-Day ahead of tomorrow's 80th anniversary commemorations in France. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Dorothy Day's legacy of service to the poor lives on through the Catholic worker movement. The community is rooted in social justice, and today they're meeting a growing need in New York City, feeding newly arrived migrants. One way is with an urban garden. Currents News' Jessica Easthope joins us now with more. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Christine. The Catholic worker movement on the Lower East Side is a source of compassion for newly arrived migrants passing through or settling in New York City. At Mary House, they feed more than 100 women and children every week. And as of recently, the food they're serving is as local and organic as it gets. Take a look. History is repeating itself at Mary House. The items in this room where Dorothy Day lived and died have been frozen in time. But up on the roof of the Lower East Side building, the Catholic worker movement is growing.
There was a group of us that came together with just more of an interest in cultivating our connection to the earth, to plants, to what we grow, to what we eat.
A new urban garden provides fresh produce for lunch Tuesday through Friday, served to more than 100 women and children. Many are newly arrived migrants.
All right, nice. See, got some good things for the salad.
Liam Myers harvests it and cooks with it.
As we're trying to care for the poor, we're growing food knowing that better listening to the earth is a way to better listen to each other.
The idea for the urban garden, home to herbs, leafy greens, and soon some vegetables, was started this spring. Pope Francis's encyclicals planted the seed.
We draw a lot of inspiration from Pope Francis, and we think a lot about this connection between the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor.
As we recover a sensitivity to our place in the earth, which Pope Francis calls us to do in Laudato Si and Laudate Deum, we recover our humanity. So I think we'll take some kale.
Jim Robinson, a religious studies professor at Iona University, volunteers at Mary House a few days a week. He says connection to the earth is part of the life cycle of the Catholic worker movement.
It's all an integral ecology, as Pope Francis puts it.
In a place where radical inclusion flows freely, where Dorothy Day lived out her grassroots mission, faith still lives in this house and above it.
How perhaps she would like us and envision us to kind of carry on that work and that movement. So we certainly feel her with us.
Many of the women and children Mary House feeds are newly arrived migrants who rely on the Catholic worker community for food, clothes, and other resources. Christine, more than 180,000 migrants have settled in New York City in just the last 2 years.
Wow. Thanks, Jess. President Biden's new policy on immigration at the border is sparking a lot of reaction on Capitol Hill and beyond. His executive action will allow the government to ban some migrants who cross the border illegally from seeking asylum. The president is facing criticism from both parties. President Biden issued an executive order barring asylum when daily migrant apprehensions at the U.S. southern border hit a 7-day average of 2,500, a move that could result in the deportation of some migrants in a matter of days, even hours.
They choose to come without permission and against the law, they'll be restricted from receiving asylum and staying in the United States.
Some members of Congress showed their support.
This is going to help us secure the border.
Biden appearing to take a page from former President Donald Trump's hard-line immigration playbook. Trump tried implementing a similar policy in 2018. The ACLU led the challenge that caused courts to strike it down and says it plans to sue the Biden administration, too. Administration officials defended the executive order, saying it includes humanitarian exceptions for unaccompanied migrant children, for some medical emergencies, and for victims of severe human trafficking. The timing of the announcement raising eyebrows among advocates like Sister Norma Pimentel because migrant apprehensions at the southern border have plummeted.
I would think it's because of the fact that we're having an election very soon, and if he doesn't show a different optic picture, then they're losing.
The apparent White House strategy now is to point fingers at Republicans who failed to support the Senate's bipartisan border bill. But some Republicans fired right back, saying it's too little, too late. Joining us now with more Catholic reaction to President Biden's new border policy is the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg. Hi, John.
Hi, Christine.
So, John, what are Catholic leaders saying about this new border policy?
Yeah, so I spoke to a number of Catholic leaders yesterday, and some of the words and phrases they used were dangerous, deeply disturbed, and that the policies will have serious human consequences. And their chief argument is that while the country, yes, has a right to protect and secure its border, they say that it cannot come at the expense of the humanitarian safety of those who are fleeing their countries.
All right, but some believe a policy like this is needed to prevent drug smugglers, violent gangs, and human traffickers from entering the country, right?
Absolutely. And the Catholic leader, specifically Bishop Mark Seitz, the head of the U.S. Bishops' Migration Committee, he agrees with that. But he also counters that by forcing these migrants back across the border. They're actually emboldening and empowering these same people they're trying to protect against by forcing the migrants into their arms and into the dangerous situations yet again.
Wow. So will this change in policy affect the work that the church does at the border?
That's actually the most consistent thing I heard from Catholic leaders. They say that despite these policies, despite these actions, their work is going to continue. While they weigh in on political matters, they don't act on political matters in the sense that they're focused on the people in front of them, serving the migrants that come to the border and are seeking help. So that work will not change, and they'll continue, of course, collaboration with local and federal authorities as best they can to carry out that mission.
All right, John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Christine.
The migrant crisis is global. The UN estimates almost 110 million people worldwide have had to flee their homes. Every year, the Vatican dedicates a day to migrants and refugees. This year is the 110th and will be held on September 29th. In the Pope's message, he recalled that at the last assembly of the Synod on Synodality, it was pointed out that the Church needs to rediscover herself as people walking towards God. That is why Christians living in countries where there is no conflict are asked to be welcoming and not to forget that all, migrants or not, are equal before God. Governor Kathy Hochul is hitting the brakes on congestion pricing. The controversial plan to charge drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street has been indefinitely postponed. Governor Hochul says implementing it now, while the city is still recovering from the pandemic, risks too many unintended consequences for New Yorkers. The plan was supposed to start June 30th and would have charged a $15 toll for passenger cars on weekdays from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Tomorrow marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and while heads of state are gathering in France, the focus isn't on them. It's on the few veterans who are still alive.
It's hard to describe. You know, all these people never think they recognize old veterans. You know, what our country really means. You know, I love my country.
The commemoration festivities are being hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife. President Biden and British royals are also participating in the festivities. For more remembrances of D-Day, go to this week's Tablet newspaper. You can read about the horror of that day in Normandy from a survivor, Frank DeVita, who was a parishioner at St. Finbar in Bath Beach, and discover the story of a Brooklyn chaplain who made the ultimate sacrifice ministering to a fallen soldier. And you can read those stories by picking up the Tablet this weekend at your local church. To get future editions sent straight to you, just subscribe online to thetablet.org. And before we go, do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.